Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ghost Protocol. Fardin here. If you like our video, please leave a like and comment. Subscribe to stay connected with us, and we will continue to publish videos. I am reading a new incident as it is written, and this incident was sent by Sujan Sardar from Khulna Division, Bangladesh. He wrote that his village is Kutakhali, and the name of his police station is Dakab Thana. He is currently in Mongla for work. He writes that whenever he hears the name Sundarbans, the impenetrable walls of dense green mangroves appear before his eyes. The wet mud of the ebb and flow of the tide, and the scent of an unknown terror mixed with the air. This forest is as magical in the daylight as it is violent when the sun sets. The local Bawali, Mowal, and fishermen have followed an unwritten rule for generations. Do not be alone on the riverbank after dusk, because not all shadows of the sister are human. Sujan was one of those experienced fishermen with the salt water of the river flowing through his veins. He was in his 40s, his face was tanned and tanned. Since childhood, he has been fishing in this circular pond of the Sundarbans, holding his father's hand, starting from the Pashur River and every creek and canal of the Bangashir. The tigers are at his fingertips. Sujan would always laugh out loud when he heard stories about ghosts, spirits, or supernatural things in the village tea shop. He would say that there is nothing to fear in the world except his sister's tiger and the water crocodile. Those supernatural stories are not stories for the weak-minded, but that bone-chilling winter night of 2026 shattered Sujan's long-held faith in an instant. The sky was unusually calm that day. There were no clouds, yet there was no sign of the moon or stars in the sky. A dense darkness covered the entire forest like a sheet. The familiar air of the Sundarbans was also still that day. The water of the river was as black and still as a mirror, as if a monster was waiting for prey underwater, holding its breath. Sujan, and with him Milan and Naresh, had set out in a dinghy boat in search of Hilsa and Pangas. It was almost 1 in the night. They were waiting by casting their nets in a small stream that flowed past the deep sister's lap. Usually at this time, the sister's ears would be pricked by the chirping of insects and the sound of a crow. But that day, the surroundings were as silent as a grave. Suddenly, she put her hand on Sujan's shoulder and said in a low voice, "Sujan bhai, the night is feeling so heavy. My chest is pounding. Let's go back today." Sujan looked at Milan and said in a mocking tone, "You've been fishing for so many years, but you're still scared like a child. Just lift the net once. I'll go back to catch good fish." But after a while, Naresh became restless. He said in a trembling voice, "No, Sujan, brother. Milan is right. The air smells like a rotten corpse. I feel like someone is looking at us." Sujan was annoyed. This fear of music was ruining his fishing. He gave up and said, "Okay, if you are scared, go to the boat and stay a little further away at the mouth of the canal. The net is being prepared." Naresh and Milan did not delay a moment. They moved a little further away to the open water in another small boat. Sujan was left alone under the shadow of that tree. The silence had become unbearable. Even the sound of his own breathing was beating in Sujan's eardrums. When the light waves of the river were hitting him, the sound of the boat was also whispering as if it was talking. Sujan was trying to quickly raise the net. At that very moment the sound came, "Sujan, Sujan, come here." So Sujan stopped. The voice was strangely familiar. It was exactly like his childhood friend Bijan. Bijan had died of an illness many years ago, but Sujan would never forget that voice. Sujan looked around. In the pitch darkness, only the blurred shapes of the round leaves and the beautiful trees could be seen. He convinced himself, surely Milan was joking with him. "Who is Milan? What else are you doing?" Sujan called out to him, but there was no answer. The silence seemed to grow even darker. After a few seconds, the call came again. "Sujan, I am here. Come inside, my sister. Look how many fish there are." This time, the word came from very close to the shore. A cold current ran through Sujan's spine. A corner of his mind said that logic was saying that it was impossible, but another curiosity overwhelmed him. It was as if he had gone under the control of his subconscious mind. He pulled the boat close to the mud and got out. He stepped into the depths of the cister over the mud and the roots. The inside of the cister was flawless darkness. The vines wanted to entangle his legs like living snakes. He moved into the bushes and kept moving, looking at the voice. "Where are you? What are you doing in the jungle at this midnight?" Sujan's voice was trembling. Suddenly the word came from right above his head. "Here I am, on top of you, Sujan." Sujan gathered courage and slowly looked up, and no one in the world would be prepared to see what he saw. Someone was sitting on the branch of a huge rowan tree, but the sitting position was unusual. Completely upside down, his legs were twisted around the branch, and his body was hanging down. His long black hair hung down like monkey wings or algae. Although his face was covered in darkness, his white skin seemed to be spreading a strange light. Sujan stood like a stone, and he lost the ability to scream. That shadow slowly raised its head. When his face caught Sujan's eye, Sujan's heart stopped for a moment. That face had no proper shape. The eyes were unusually large and dazzlingly white. There was no pearl in them, and a strange, brutal smile appeared on his face. "Why did you take so long, Sujan? We were waiting for you." The voice was no longer like Bijan's. It was hoarse. Sujan felt as if someone had pinned his hands and feet to the ground. He could not move an inch. That strange creature now started to descend from the branch, but it was not landing on the ground. Instead, it was jumping from one branch to another like a monkey, but its body was still hanging upside down. Its arms were unusually long. Its fingers were like sharp branches of a tree. When the creature came only a few feet above Sujan, futility came over Sujan's nerves. In the dying breath of life, he took a huge leap backwards. His feet were sinking into the mud. His body was bleeding from the thorns of the bush, but he did not stop. That bone-chilling sound was coming from behind, but it was not landing on the ground. Instead, it was jumping from one branch to another like a monkey, but its body was still hanging upside down. Its arms were unusually long. Its fingers were like sharp branches of a tree. When the creature came only a few feet above Sujan, futility came over Sujan's nerves. In the dying breath of life, he took a huge leap backwards. His feet were sinking into the mud. His body was bleeding from the thorns of the bush. But he did not stop. That bone-chilling sound was coming from behind. That sound was heard like the strange murmur of many voices. "Don't come back. Give me a chance. We know you." Sujan didn't look back. When he reached the boat, his whole body was wet with sweat. He was covered in mud. He quickly pulled the boat with a log and took it towards the deep water. His hands and feet were shaking. He couldn't hold on to the boat properly. Seeing the lights of Milan and Naresh's boat in the distance, he screamed. Milan and Naresh quickly took their boat and reached Sujan. They were shocked to see Sujan. Sujan's eyes were wide open. Only muffled sounds came out of his mouth. "What happened, Sujan Bai? Did you see the tiger?" "Milan," he asked in panic. Sujan was just gasping, and he was pointing at the dense darkness of that cister with his fingers. Only one word came out of his mouth. "That is not a person. That is not a person." When the people of the village rescued Sujan and brought him home the next morning, he had a high fever. He was babbling. The oldest boy in the village was Jabbar's grandfather. He listened to everything Sujan said calmly. Sujan's eyes were wide open. Only muffled sounds came out of his mouth. "What happened, Sujan Bhai? Did you see the tiger?" "Milan," he asked in panic. Sujan was just gasping, and he was pointing at the dense darkness of that sister with his fingers. Only one word came out of his mouth. "That is not a human. That is not a human." When the villagers rescued Sujan and brought him home the next morning, he had a high fever. He was babbling. The oldest boy in the village was Jabbar's grandfather. He listened to everything Sujan said calmly. Then he sighed and said, "Sujan, you have returned to your senses. Those are the calls of the Sundarbans. They enter your mind. They call with the voice of a familiar person. If you follow them into the deep forest once, then you will never find the cow again. They are the insatiable souls of your sister, who have been accepting people who have gone astray for ages." After that night, Sujan's life changed forever. The man who used to laugh when he heard about ghosts now comes miles away from the forest before dusk. He never wanted to fish alone again. Even today, when a boy from his family asks him, "Sujan, brother, is there really such a thing as a ghost?" Sujan, instead of answering, just remembers the memory of those white eyes and shivers. He looks at the distant sky and says in a calm voice that he can't hear all the calls. There are many things moving around inside his sister that call like humans but are not humans. It is better to stay away from some calls. That is the only way to survive. True story. Sundarbans, Sujan Sardar. Thank you, Sujan Sardar, for sharing this story with us. I hope you like this story too. We thank those who have listened till now. We will see you tomorrow. May everyone be well again with a new story. Thank you.